Alright, here we are with Godbound, Evicting Epistle, Season 2, Episode 12. It is April 2019, and I guess we don't have to do intros because this isn't an actual episode, so I'm Devin.
Nicole.
Tyler.
Peter. Mark.
Alright, gang. So, this is the episode where we talk about the last two seasons of Evicting Epistle. Just kind of do a, kind of a decompress. I think we're all kind of at the conclusion of this game.
Yep.
So, just to kind of throw stuff out there, Evicting Epistle was based off of like a kind of remnants of a campaign setting from way back in the day when I used to play D&D with these people, and it was this whole thing. I think we talked about this in the intro a bit. So we ran through this setting with these kind of references and these ideas that have been elaborated on and kind of used in different ways, and saw how the setting changed based on the players interacting with it. I think we saw a lot of changes happening in between Season 1 and 2. And a lot of different kind of goals and ideas put into play. So that was kind of it. So yeah, Peter.
So as I understand, the episode is pretty much a layered setting where the campaigns tend to layer on one another and eventually remix and so on and so on. So we see a lot of echoes from your past games here reflected, I suppose.
Yeah, essentially. Basically, Evicting Epistle was this game called Epic Evil, where everyone would get together in 3.0 D&D, build 20th level characters, and they were all kind of like evil overlords. So they all had like an evil plan. They had an evil goal, like destroy the world, crush the sun, make $1 million, and then a plan to get that goal.
To be fair, I don't think the premises was that you had to be evil.
No, okay.
It's just you had to be big and everyone skewed evil.
Revisionists, as the games went on, said it wasn't about being evil, but that was the pitch every single fucking time. That was like, you're a big evil overlord, and someone would usually play a token good character. And then because some people started to think they were better than the game, when future ones happened, they'd be revisionists and say, no, it's about being big and epic. You don't have to be evil. That's too simplistic. But it was a bunch of fucking guys in university trying to rock out with their cock out in D&D 3.0 at 20th level. And shockingly enough, even back then, they figured out wizard supremacy is the winner. Because D&D is not great for balance.
Yeah.
So how it worked was each game took place in the setting, the epistle, the epic evil setting, and in between each game, like once it ended, about 3,000 years would go by, the world would change, the map would update, and people would introduce ideas and stuff and build new characters and do another one. People were pretty fucking petty about it in this university group, so like changes old players actually made in victories they had would be taken away and usurped to be garbage or like altered, or they weren't there, so they would just change it without caring. They'd be like, I don't fucking care about this. And it was run between one guy, there was one guy, another guy, and me. So there were 4 people that ran these, and I ran, I think, the very last one before these were done forever, and that university group just split apart. But I think there were about 7 or 8 originally. So by the time I got around to mine, there was like 8 entire 20th level games that ran like 30, 40 sessions, like fucking crunched under each play of this game.
Yep.
And what I had done when we got this idea for Godbound was I took all these ideas, I scrapped all the continuity, all the things people had done, and I only took the ideas I thought were interesting and expanded them and made them kind of neat.
Yeah, because the main concept going into this game was to run a Godbound game in a setting that's strong, that won't just fall over the instant we introduce Godbounds into it. Because that's the big problem we had. And I think Epistle was one of the strongest settings we could have went into without, everything like that.
Which episode?
In general, going into Epistle was that we wanted to have a strong setting.
The setting was prepared for Godbound because of how the epistle setting works. It knows what powerful people are, because the people who are the epic level characters, the term I used was Superman. Superman would show up and ruin the world, and then 3,000 years would go by and everyone would kind of forget about it and only have like legends and half-truths. I think that was the first time it happened. And then it happened again, and again, and again, and they just keep kicking the setting while it was down.
Yep.
And there were a lot of weird D&D hang-ups stuck into it, like the people who ran it rolled back literally all the progress that was made from it going from medieval to kind of Renaissance, because guns in D&D are dumb was his official line for it. So he made like this caveman level world where it was all like trees and like, there were barely cities, and he had his super GM plot about an angel coming to wipe out everything off the face of the world and stuff. And there were a lot of those in the Epic Evil games. They were not super great. Until I ran one. Even that one wasn't super great, I find, compared to how I run now. But I had a lot of baggage going on from those guys. But, yeah, conceptually, this is a setting that can handle Godbound. It knows what you are, it knows what you're capable of. Even if it didn't know what Godbound specifically were, it understood the nature of a player character.
Yep.
And, like, that was an intentional thing. This is a civilization that had lasted, 30,000 uninterrupted years of dealing with this shit. And had gone to, like, a transhuman magic society and then ruined their world and went back in time to get more time. Because all these alignments ruined the world. All these Epic Evil games. So they wanted a fresh start.
Yep.
So I thought that was compelling. That the weird people from the future that were like... It's everything you don't get from D&D. Because in D&D, you're never really allowed to advance the setting. Like, Faerun will always be Faerun. Ravenloft will always stay in stasis. Greyhawk will always be a generic fucking, square and hexagon map realm that never changes. Mm-hmm. These settings never change.
Rat is dragging off 5-year-olds.
Yeah. It's a reference to D&D where, because rats have a strength score of 1, they're technically able to drag toddlers away in the 3.0 system.
I mean, have you seen some rats?
I know, right? So, like, that was the big problem with settings I found going in, was that most fantasy settings are static because D&D, as a franchise, is a static game. So that was the neat thing with Epistle. It was ever changing and altering and getting weirder and weirder as time went on, and embracing that weirdness.
Yep.
All the future societies were weird. All the past societies they mapped to fantasy tropes, but in odd and unnerving ways. Like, dragons were a civilization unto themselves. Each dragon had an entire nation with it. Each one of the titans had a nation with it in different ways. The elves were absolutely unassailable unless you really put effort into them. And they kept technology down, whereas the future people kept it up.
Yep.
Just stuff. Stuff and references and callbacks and... interesting ideas. That was kind of my push for the game when we started.
Yeah, and if some people are observant, a lot of the Epistle has already made its way into our different games. And some of our games have progressed into Epistle back. So it's all a mishmash at some point. Yeah. Neat callbacks.
It's, I do have a lot of baggage from those days playing with the university group. Like, they were bad people. Objectively so, and they really fucked with me a lot. But... this game was one of those ways I was able to work through those old games I used to play. So, like, the callbacks to old Epistle stuff, I was able to kind of just put it into one game, this game, and it's like, it's here, it's done. I don't think I'd ever use anything from Epistle after this. Like, I don't think I need to bring up Faust or bring up ideas about, like, future societies or, bring up the Gand again. Yeah. I think this is it. Like, it's done.
I'd be very surprised if that was the case, because...
I've been doing it forever.
Yeah, exactly. Reusing like character bits or whatever is it makes it so that you can easily grab things to put into a game that you don't have to come up with a full fresh thing.
Like, probably large scale, no, but individual parts, I don't see you ever dropping that. Like, just right now, we're discussing one game where you're wanting to take a race from here and use that, and so on and so on. So, definitely a trove of ideas to pick and choose from, not necessarily to...
A lot of those ideas have kind of grown past the Evicting Epistle and that old university group. Like, Goblins, how we run them, is nothing how they are running in the university.
You definitely are the one that made that.
we changed them and made them more interesting. Goblins are actually, for reference, that might be a nice story to put in the outro if people care. Goblins are my take on the Kender from Dragonlance. Specifically the concept of a race, and it's a race, and that's another weird D&D thing, but a race everyone would absolutely fucking despise, that people would play to the annoyance of others, that is represented in the text as being something people fucking love. Like, the Kender are objectively awful. They're steely people that, because of the way their brains are wired, you can never get mad at them because they're not at fault. They never are responsible for their consequences of their actions or how they hurt people. They're just steely assholes that are halflings, that look like children and stuff, and they never feel fear. There's a lot of things to unpack with what's wrong with Kender, but my take on Goblins was basically a reaction to that. What if you took Kender at face value? An annoying thing everyone would obviously hate and obviously not want to deal with. This species of, like, weird half people that, like, breed super fast and don't have a concept of death or time, and just, live in the moment constantly and never can really follow orders or never can focus. And they have like, a caste system that allows like a commander to show up and like, move them away from people. And like by making them objectively awful right out the gate, it actually allows people to become sympathetic for them. Like goblins are objectively bad. They're awful to deal with. They're not bad people, but they're a nuisance and a nightmare and a plague. And their lot in life is they'll probably end up killing themselves long before they establish any meaningful relationships. And once you put that out on the table as a real fact, like as the actual objective fact of the setting, other characters in the setting can go, well, that's a sad life. I feel bad about that. And can actually emphasize with them without like the writing playing up as such great heroes and fun people.
Yep.
That was kind of what goblins turned into. Goblins in the original Evicting Epistle were like sand-dwelling half-creatures that used to be fairies, and there was like a god of them called Zael, and it was lame as shit. They were real lame. I think they rode like wasps or scarabs or something. But the concept of you using like epistle-specific stuff, I think is done. Like this game is a dumping ground for that, or like a way to work it all out. Much like Transformers is a way to work out my big ideas about Transformers, and I don't think I'd use Transformers stuff in other games now. I think it's done. We have a legacy game prepped where I'm playing basically a Terminator society, and I do use Terminator stuff in games, and I think once I go through that, I will have cleansed my palate of it. Which is a little sad, because I think people expect me to use these references and callbacks a lot, but it opens the door to new things to iterate on.
I mean, we've done so many games at this point that you can make callbacks and references to something else from our games.
I can do something new now that I've gotten out of my system. I can iterate on stuff that we know. Because we've made memories as a group.
Yeah.
We have all sorts of interesting ideas and concepts to spitball around that aren't just, Devin's talking about something from 2008.
Oh, baby bird.
Yeah, little baby bird. I don't know what Devin's referencing here. Oh my god.
Little baby bird is a reference to
No, that. I'm talking about like stuff from 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff that almost predates you knowing me.
So, I guess the big part of the setting were the future society that came back. And I guess the spin you put on them that, well, there's a similar concept that everybody has a concept of what a deity is. Everyone has a concept of what a Shadowrun is, and so on and so on. And all of them are like taken to the extreme, or how would you put it, Devin?
I wanted to lean heavily into the future societies, all representing different aspect of play. Like, how did I originally put it? I think
I know that the free market guys were you described them as being like having a faction rep system, and then they were like they're playing Civilization.
Yeah, like that's how I kind of like their cultures evolved to see the world through a very specific gaming lens, because gameplay is something that's, I think, special to societies. And if you get as advanced as they got and as weird as they got, they would take that form of entertainment as a worldview. And it's a great way to cope with the nihilism and the actual factual understanding that not only does nothing matter, but the universe is a hostile, angry black hole that's going to swallow up everything you've ever done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the dragon people, the Manticore, they saw the world through the lens of a 5X game, where it's all about exploration, hexes, setting up colonies, faction, rep, trade, civilization, or what's that famous 5X one, the space one?
Mastermind.
Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri?
Alpha Centauri is a good one. I meant the more recent one by Paradox.
Oh, Stellaris.
Stellaris. They saw the world through that kind of lens. Alpha Centauri, Civilization, Stellaris. I think Dericho saw it. How did they? I can't remember anymore.
I mean, they were the Matrix people. They plugged themselves in.
Yeah. I don't remember. I
mean, they were a smaller society, so it's like
they're hedonistic.
They upload themselves to the blockchain and so on, copy themselves.
Yeah.
Again, they were a smaller society, so maybe not us.
Acerns saw the world through, like, he literally had the world quantified as if it was like a fantasy TTRPG.
Yeah.
Because I kind of ran it from the idea that the 3.0 D&D system was something you could examine. Like I ran it from the understanding that someone could, in D&D, could throw themselves off the tallest building and be like, hey, I only took minor to catastrophic damage. It's not that bad. Most people can walk this off because it's only like 10d6 tops.
It's like, if you were in an actual game, you eventually would figure out, okay, how much is a hit point? How much is a thing?
Or like,
be able to
why is everything in 5-foot increments?
Yeah, why is every room an even number of 5, no matter how we make them?
We tried to make a circular room. No, it's 5 foot by 5 foot.
Well, we gotta go to the next village. Everyone get into a group huddle.
Exactly.
The fastest thing in the game.
Right?
Like, I kind of ran from that perspective that maybe it wasn't one-for-one D&D 3.0, but these people were so advanced that their understanding of physics and the laws of nature, because the laws of nature are magic, they're made by gods, were understandable, investigatable, and exploitable because they weren't very good.
Yeah, so like they're the people in the machine, whatever, that figure out what the matrix is and iterate from that to like start hacking the system.
They understand they're in a simulation, and that doesn't necessarily translate to they know they're a D&D game, but they understand that their world was intelligently designed, and therefore was kind of shoddily built.
Fair enough. So yeah, how did we feel as players with the future societies?
I was shocked that most people didn't play Future People.
Well, yeah, I guess that's something that at least I realized a little bit later that recently we were talking about, like, you know, looking back at other games and so on, and Devin mentioned that, he expected more people to play Future Societies.
Yeah, because
I remember going in that wasn't mentioned.
It wasn't mentioned, but the original pitch was written from the perspective of the Future Societies.
Yeah.
So me, Devin, and Kevin kind of saw that and we were like, okay, it's written from the perspective of the Future People, so we're going to play Future People. And I guess it just didn't occur to us that other people might not see that.
I mean, literally, my thought when I made a bunch of characters and negotiated over which ones I was going to play, but the end for me was like, there was lots of references to the games you just described, and I had absolutely no connotations.
Yeah, most people don't.
So therefore, it made more sense to me to play a character who's like a barbarian and
a blank slate.
A blank slate. Yeah, who has no idea what the hell any of these things are. Also, so that when I got introduced to the different factions, I could go, oh, I like this one, or oh, I like this one.
Yeah, I came from a similar place.
Yeah.
There was an overwhelming amount of information.
Yeah,
pretty much. Like, I think that's an obvious thing to call now, but in hindsight, it's something I should have really noticed. Like, it's obvious. It's an obvious, really easy mistake to make. Like, to just be like, oh, right, they're going to go for the point of view characters that don't have to know anything because that way they can naturally get acclimated to it.
Well, there's two things.
Sure.
One, there's a setting that has a lot of history. That's one thing that can be overwhelming. But on the other hand, it's a setting with a lot of history with nothing you can reference to. It's not like Exalted, where like, oh, we can play in this setting that has lots of stuff, but also 20 books. If you can go and like, oh, I want to read up, I don't know, on one of the cities and so on, look deeper into it by myself without having to bug Devon for little things. Like me specifically going into it was like, oh, okay, there are future society come from the future into the past to colonize and so on, and I didn't want to be like, I'm from the future, therefore I know better than everything else in this setting. Therefore, I'm set in my ways, and my way is the best way because I've done this. So I specifically wanted to be a past person to have a completely different perspective than all those savages.
I know, right? There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah,
which was intentional. Like, I knew it'd be a game about colonialism.
Yeah, which if we it was explicitly mentioned that hey, we want to be from the future, guys. If that was specifically mentioned, then maybe it was a different perspective.
Yeah.
But without that being explicitly said, that's where it ended up.
You were going to say something, Tyler?
Yeah, to come back to what you said about it being written from the perspective of the future people. I got that as well, but though it was written from their perspective, I never perceived them as being the protagonists. It always seemed antagonistic to me.
Oh yeah, they're not good guys. That's definitely
that they were
true.
coming back and basically invading the world.
Like, who would be the good guys in the setting? Probably just the common person. The common person from the past.
From the past or the future.
Yeah.
So these are people who saw the end of time and were basically robbed of having a future, and were like, I guess, let's go back and see air again and see the ground again.
Yeah. So if you made any character that's pro any other part of the setting, you are explicitly the bad guy. Pro the future societies, you're oppressing. Pro hyper elves, you're obviously bad. Pro breakers, takers, Faust and Fui, and anything else, you're obviously the bad person. Which is fine.
It was an awfully weird statement to make. It's like, if you want to be part of the system, you're inherently evil. It's like, What a weird statement this game has. Being part of a system is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you basically had to not be part of any of the factions that were established
Maybe-
in order to be a good guy.
Maybe if you were New Elder Guard, but not under
Shem'Zaroth.
Shem'Zaroth.
Yeah.
Maybe. So yeah, it was really...
I did kind of like that because it primed people to go their own way.
Yeah, which was fine. Well, like, I really dug some of the future societies, like I dug the hyper-capitalists and so on. I was like interested in engaging with them. Season 1.
Then they flew up.
Yeah, Season 2, I saw all of the setting change to be more like endgame / antagonistic, which I personally didn't enjoy as much. Like, I had fun hanging out with Faust first season. So I know some people didn't like him, but for me it's like, oh, that's a nice thing for Azazel. Season 2, he was already doing his machinations and planning on things more actively. Like, oh, I don't like that anymore.
I think that if the game had a flaw, it was that there were very few NPCs who weren't like our guys, who we could kind of relate to on like and have like a relationship that was like anything but we hate
Servile?
you. Yeah, like or servile in the other way. Like,
yeah, that's
There was no kind of middle ground of people. Everyone was either chaff, or they were so far above us that it was
I
unreachable.
guess.
For me, that was kind of a point of my character, is that she's very paranoid and doesn't trust anyone except for her one guy who's proven himself.
Yeah.
And like she was basically supposed to get to trust the party eventually, but we didn't become
like-
very great friends at all.
I mean,
I think that's like what you're talking about, Tyler. That's it's an artifact of trying to build a setting that can handle Godbound. It's like it's very hard to do that granular middle.
I guess it would be nice maybe if like we had some past societies that were not hyper advanced, but like enough to that they're on their own thing, their own culture and so on, that we might be like sympathetic to, man, or to just go and pave over as our new worshippers and so on.
Yeah,
I kind of like Noctis, to be honest, as like out of character.
Nocturnus.
Or Noctis.
I like pretty much all of them, except I also hate all of them in different ways.
Yeah.
Basically, I think that I like the Epistle as a setting. Just I like all the different stories and stuff, but there's a lot to it. I think that if we were going to come back to the Epistle at all, it would be better if A, we weren't gods, and B, we scrap, this game is not canon. So we focus on one of the future societies, and that's the one we're going to be interacting with. And that way we could actually dive into it more. But in that way, it's not really Epistle at that case, in that.
Yeah.
Even just all of us running a family or whatever in
Yeah, or something like that. But also once the world exploded, it was oh shit.
Yeah, I feel a little bit that we jumped the middle part of the game where we'll be engaging more of the side without trying to push ourselves too much, push the setting too much. Because early on we were there's a hole there, we need to fix it so it's not a problem, it doesn't break the setting. And after the giant December Vault went off, it's well, it's broken anyway, might as well just put the hammer down, and so on and so on. I guess an interesting thing to happen.
yeah.
I don't know. I felt like we were finally getting to the point where we could actually do the things that we said our characters wanted to do at the start.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's maybe a little bit problem with Godbound itself. Where for a long while you have this aspiration oh, I want to go save the world, save this country, deal with the big threats. For a long while you can't because you don't have the power. And then when you reach the tipping point, suddenly you can just go and pave over the whole setting because you have enough guys, materials, shards, and Godwalkers, and you just...
Yeah,
pave
I mean,
things over.
I really enjoyed the narrative of the campaign, and I had a fun time going through and experiencing the story and all of the stuff that we did it. But I mean, like a typical D&D or OSR game, I really enjoyed it despite
Yeah.
the mechanics of the game itself.
I'm really
which
glad to
I
hear
found
that.
were terrible.
I'm really
Yeah.
glad to hear that. I was afraid that I was kind of dragging it.
It's
Yeah,
like
no, it was good.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, but like mechanically, it was terrible.
Like definitely what I noticed, like when we were going to fight, poor Devon had to put in enough stuff for us not to just pave over it within a turn or two, but also not enough
That
to
I
pay,
would-
they pave over it.
Not enough that I would just be like, boop, not in this body anymore. Bye.
Yeah, the typical it had the typical problem of every like first to third edition D&D game has, which is trying to come up with any kind of fight that challenges the player, with the added problem that when you're dealing with the kind of nonsense we can throw around, where you've got like giant armies of man-eating goats and Lothar's ridiculous cult and airships with people with guns and an army of 20th level wizards.
Yeah, we definitely pushed the system to its limits. We found
Way more than we do with Exalted. And Exalted
Oh,
was
yeah.
straight up broke everything.
I mean, in Exalted, Archive was strong, but we haven't yet figured out the brain spiders of how to, like, hey, if we give our people 2 stripes, they become heroes, which are way stronger than everything else. Or if we bring a vast army everywhere, it can just, roll over everything.
So the paradox of Godbound goes like this. It's supposed to be a very nice way to do like a sandbox game. Like, you're in a hex, you're going to go to the next hex, maybe someone's going to plop down a module from like AD&D, right? Like, hey, it's Dragon Mountain, let's go do that from 1983.
Yep.
But the paradox of Godbound is it's like, you are on a hex map. Alright, I took a single lesser gift that lets me traverse the entire world as an action.
Yep.
You're like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're not on a hex map so much as we're on a single map without a grid, and you just point to where you guys want to adventure to. Okay, well, you're still going to be challenged by what's there. It's like, right, but now I'm high enough level that I have goons. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess your goons will be taking care of that now, and you'll go be doing other things. Like as you progress in Godbound, every part of the sandbox experience, like, hey, do you guys want to do Dragon Mountain? It's like, fuck no, I don't, but I'll send 15,000 12 hit die soldiers to go do it. It's like, oh, Dragon Mountain has been defeated.
It's like,
Offhand.
sure, I have 5 minutes to go and just go for the start, punch my way down straight to the bottom, punch the boss in the face, and take his loot.
Yeah, or it's like, hey, I'm gonna go do this adventure. It's like, I could do that, because and it's like, why are you doing this adventure? It's like, well, I really care about X, Y, and Z. I actually care. I'm super connected. I want this kingdom to prosper, and I care about my wife and stuff. And it's like, cool. So you're gonna go fight the adventure. It's like, oh God, no. I have health, cities, and engineering. I set up free Medicare for all and built walls so high the kingdom lives on the walls away from anyone who can ever invade us. That kingdom, every problem that kingdom has been solved forever by me with Dominion. And just free stuff my gifts give me.
One thing I learned from this game, which I've kind of learned and forgotten many times over the years, is to have a character with clearer, more short-term goals. Because Thea's goal is basically
Be liked.
take over the
Spread
world
my network.
or whatever. Like,
Use my greater gift of wireless.
yeah, it's like I'm gonna take over the world or whatever. And like out of character, the point was also like I was hoping that like we would get along and like make friends,
I
and
thought
she'd
we
start to
did
trust people.
pretty well for the most part until the very end.
She's very paranoid, and also it seemed like the one she got along with most was the Marquis. And it seemed like Lothar and Matael hated cities and future people, so she was always like, do they hate me? Are they going to turn on me? I don't know. And then Azazel was just a fucking drunken mess. She had no idea how to deal with that. It's like, he's not bothering me, so cool, whatever. And then Kevin exploded, or Marquis exploded the world, and then also he wasn't in the game for quite a while.
Yeah.
So it was Thea with the 3 past people, and she's like, okay, do you guys hate future people? Are you wanting to burn down the city I live in? What's going on?
But by the end of the game, you're another player, we wouldn't be such dicks to you. But I guess the problem I had with Thea was that whenever there's a conflict, Thea just goes into her safe space and doesn't engage. Which is I understand the paranoia and so on, but like...
The fight with the Gand, it seemed like we were going to die, so she popped out of that.
Yeah.
But the reason she didn't go into the Paradise thing was also...
Because of the character
That's
backstory.
a main, like,
that's...
this character was also supposed to...
Yeah, no, I think Peter's saying it makes perfect sense. It was just kind of hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's just like, despite it making sense, it's not necessarily that great for the game as a game. I understand, the character, that makes total sense.
I mean, Lothar...
You were saying something, though, like Tyler, before that. Do you still have that thought?
Yeah. I was saying, like, I kind of, what you were talking about with the, like, oh, well, I want to be this where I have health, so I make Medicare and I build walls and all the city. Like, I thought that was really the only good part of the game. I liked that sort of, like, loosey-goosey. Like, I would have preferred for it to be more unmarried from its OSR roots, which it doesn't need, and add nothing. And just sort of be narrative-based with gifts, where it's like, oh, well, I'm sword, so I can just do anything with sword. So I'm just going to try and think of ways to solve this problems with swords or use martial or whatever. And then, you do things like that, and then the DM says, okay, great, you do that. Here's the problem that creates. Here's the way this doesn't go super well, and then you have to deal with that.
You know what you're describing?
What?
Powered by the Apocalypse game.
Yeah.
You take action, and then the consequences of it play out in the fiction, depending on the stakes you set.
Yeah.
But the combat was like, it was interesting. I think the last time I really enjoyed the combat and thought it was neat was the big battle we fought against the Breaker. Everyone had their own stuff to do. We had our own forces there. It was we got to be big damn heroes. And like that was like in season 1.
Yeah.
And
that was probably,
And at that point, I felt like I had to put everything in combat as well, because like also the challenges were crazy, and because you were trying to make challenges. But that just made the gap way much. Yeah.
You know what's horrific? I can't even talk to the greater Godbound community about this, because anytime you bring up that, D&D has a combat engine problem, which is obvious and it's been like this for 40 goddamn years, anytime you bring it up, it's immediately like, oh, well, you just don't know how to play the game right, or your game was nothing but a hack and slash, or you were playing a D&D simulator, or, you should try not playing it like you're hero adventurers sleeping in ditches. You should try to play it like you're actually gods. And it's like, then what the fuck happens when the combat engine begins?
Mm-hmm.
Because it goes this way every time. Like I'm like, hey, in the fight between Angel and Matael, can we carve out some of the ceiling? Maybe use your gift to make a shield to block you, or be creative with it. It's like, no. If you fucking spend a turn being creative with it, you're gonna get geeked.
Lothar could have spent a time grabbing I actually thought about doing this, grabbing the Angel and using his superior might to push that into the danger zones. Except that there's specifically no good rules for doing that, and it would probably be prevented by 9 iron walls.
So there's no move for you to move someone else, and so on, so on. Those mechanics don't exist.
Also, the fact that...
But you can't just discuss it. Like, I can't just ask people how they deal with it, because it inevitably gets drowned out by people going, there is nothing wrong here. Yeah. And it makes me crazy. So, and I think that's a valid part of this game, where it's like we did 2 episodes where we fucking made fun of that.
But I mean, I think the problems are just so deeply, intrinsically embedded in the game. Like it's not like Mosgard, where at the end of it we talked about what was wrong with it, and we were like, oh, like if you change it so that feint is against attack instead of defend, it solves a huge problem with the game that then makes it better. There's no
changing the
simple solution to this, because it's just based on an engine that is
it's based on a 40-year-old engine that to this day is based around 2 objectives: kill, take. You kill so you can take, you take so you can get better at kill. And there is nothing to fix that. And it's good if we were sitting down to do a not really intense game, I feel, where it's just hey, we're gonna do a god thing for all, maybe we're gonna roll over Dragon Mountain, or another fucking module for a couple sessions. That's all cool. We'll level up a bit or stuff. But it's if we're trying to do the kind of intenser games we do, it just doesn't work anymore. Yeah. It was great when we were sick of Exalted 3rd Edition and it's 600 pages of rules, and it's this system will get in our way the least. And I agree. I was a big proponent of Godbound because it will get in your way the least. Yeah. But that was, what, 2017, 2016?
Also, yeah.
And, like, by now we found systems that not only get in our way the least, we found systems that not only don't get in our way. Well, yeah, like they don't just not get in our way, they actually push the game forward. And once you find a system once that standard is raised, it can't ever go back.
Yeah, with this Godbound game too, because of the way combat works and everything, I always felt very, very useless. So basically, you either play a combat character, or you're completely useless in combat. And like, I wanted to play like a useful, like a cool character with cool powers, but I was doing literally 1 damage at the most. Usually.
To be fair, I think the way that could have been mitigated, I mean, this is if we ever play Godbound again, is characters like Lothar should not fucking exist. You can't play on the same field and make combat like decent. I mean, like stripes should be taken out, and then when we actually have a fight, it should be like against like heroes with a couple gifts, and not against the ridiculous nonsense that we go because if we're all just
grabbing endgame bosses, I'm like, here we go, endgame boss.
If we're just all throwing around smites and like, you know, the might character can only pull off 2 or 3 hits with the strength blast power, and all of the words have decent combat abilities, which is a big problem because they should all have like a D8 or smite at the very least. I mean,
you can take the D8 smite with any.
Well, sorry, like a D10 smite or something like that.
Well, probably like if you're making characters for Godbound, you'd like ideally you take one word that's combat focused, like sword or might or something. One word that's very utility focused, so you can do like your grand project, like artifacts, engineering, stuff like that. And then put whatever else in there, so that you can have character that's both good in combat, at least decent enough, interesting enough out of combat, so it's not like, hey, I can make my guy strong or strong and fast, and I'm out of ideas, guys, I don't have any Dominion projects.
Yeah, to speak to that though, like, when I started this, I didn't know Godbound at all, so I kind of had to piece together, you know, it was difficult for me to make a character. But I later found out that the way you build a character is like that, where you kind of look at what you want to do, and then you grab these words that support it. And to me, that seems very backwards. You should be able to say, I want to be someone who's like dance, passion, and intoxication, because the concept of those 3 go really well together. And then take that and have it be a character that you can play, as opposed to being like, oh, well, I need to have this, so I need to pick one of like these sections of words.
There are 2 approaches. Either you want to play Godbound optimally, which isn't fun, or you want to run Godbound that's thematic, and then you do what you have described, and then, you know, some of the things, unfortunately, the system grinds against.
And also just like I know that I mean, joking about wealth and fire and stuff like that and other stuff in there, and the endless debate over which word is best, sun is and like endurance are goddamn ridiculous.
I mean,
yeah, that's basically what I was trying to say too. Like I looking at the different words and then being like, oh, those are neat concept words, I'm going to do that. That's kind of how I would go about it. Like, if I didn't have a pre-existing character idea, I would look at the words and be like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a character around it. But then you look at it and you're like, but I can't do any damage.
To me, it should...
Yeah, and I mean, like, even like... some of... I've ended up being very disappointed with some of the words that I took.
Like, if you had...
Any stand out?
Sword and freedom.
Really? Sword?
I took sword because I'm like, oh, I want to be an awesome pirate. I want to be a duelist. I want to get in epic sword fights with people. I want to be able to hold my own. And all that really came out good out of sword was 9 Iron Walls, which is great, but it didn't fit the kind of thematic idea that I wanted. And what I could do with sword is do 4 damage half the time, every second turn, which is just not a lot.
Doesn't cost you effort though. I played a sword main character when I got to play Godbound, and I got a fair amount of mileage out of it, but I know what you're talking about in comparison to what's being thrown around.
Yeah. And I mean, even like, I just wish it fit kind of like the fiction that I had behind the word a bit better. Like, even if I didn't do a massive amount of damage all the time, being able to go in and just, I don't know, just like duel someone.
Swashbuckler.
Yeah, like say, okay, like we're in a sword fight now, and you have to sword fight me, or I'm gonna like, I don't know. And
Like,
freedom was everything was so situational. Like
Oh, yeah, it's a weird word.
every part of it has this weird contingency where it either like kind of comes up and you can use it, or your stuff is completely useless.
I think that the big problem I have with Godbound, and it's going to sound weird, I like the words, I hate the gifts. Because the gifts are like, it's so much more interesting to have characters come up with miracles that are interacting with the world you're in and the situation that might be interesting and coming with cool ways. But mechanically, the game really doesn't want you to do that. Like, miracles have, and like, don't argue me this on this guy's online mystery. Miracles have like well-defined rules online and what they do when you do that. And it's usually something stupid like create a danger zone, which is the only kind of effective thing you can do. And like, oh, you have -2 for a round. Yeah, that was a great use of my daily effort.
And I mean, that's what I was saying, where like I almost would have preferred to have just had the words, and then you just do stuff with that. Like, I have sword, freedom, and sky, and then when we're in a situation, I say, oh well, I think that my person can do this because of sky.
I think that you kind of are supposed to be able to do that, but also the fact that there's gifts which cost certain things and everything limits it. On the other hand, though, without the gifts, thinking of stuff you can do for the words might be tricky for a lot.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could put out like a framework of examples.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Almost like a list of example gifts for each word.
no. Plus, also the big
That's what the gifts on each word, like the lesser and greater gifts, are kind of representative of. They're examples of gifts that exist for the words, and you can add more to them.
Like, plus also the big problem you run into that is, where do you set the limits of your word? Because it's okay, good to have power, but also good to have limits. Like, oh, I can definitely parry that with my sword. Yeah, I deflect the sun rays with my sword and so on. Or I know
It's a rabbit hole we ran down to when we ran Exalted. We were very liberal with our allowance for miracles and spells and stuff, and it did not. It created a scenario where every word was the same because you could justify basically everything with it.
Yeah.
so.
It's a tricky situation, and running on a purely combat engine game that supports nothing else certainly doesn't help.
I guess like one word I really did this time was the word of dragon, which has a really varied set of gifts and really varied utility. Like, the one lesser gift of dragon I had with the dragon horde, I think for me would be better than the whole world of wealth.
For what you were doing with it specifically.
Yeah.
That's a great way to avoid us having that argument again.
Yeah.
Just saying it that way.
I'm just saying that, that word of itself has great utility. Like, oh, you can do combat, you can do stuff outside of it, you can infiltrate people, take their skin out, you can mind control people, and so on. So the great variety in that single word.
Yeah, it's like a whole conceptual
10,
package.
20 different words that are as...
It's a concept word.
I know.
Yeah. If you had like 10, 20 words that are as tight, as strong as dragon, that would be a way different thing.
Yeah. And I mean, in contrast to what I said before, like, dance was a great word.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
fantastic.
dance. Yeah. And for many of the same reasons that you like dragon. It was
Did you
very
have 4
versatile.
words?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, because I was like, I keep being really confused about what words you have, because I thought you only had 3.
Which I should not have done.
Spread you thin?
I don't know if I shouldn't have gotten 4 words. I could see 4 words working for a build. I should have taken freedom. And I mean, like, one of the...
You didn't really get a lot of utility out of freedom.
I took the slavery pays as a greater gift at, like, level 1. And I was just sitting on it. Just waiting to use it.
How does that work?
It lets me do like crazy shit against someone, but I have to have like at one point been their servant or slave.
That's impossible to fucking pull off.
Well, I was going to use it on the Hyper Elves.
But the Hyper Elves were so powerful
And
that we
again,
never got
that's
there.
not something that I really
But you have to,
gleaned onto at the start of the setting. That it would
That
be
is
like,
like,
yeah,
by
like
definition, something you're going to miracle up.
I mean, you probably have to like go out of your way to go into every future society, be their underclass for a bit to just pretend, and then like, haha, now I can kill all of you because I served you.
Yeah.
Service guarantees murder.
But that, like, I understood that the Hyper Elves were, like,
The big-
higher end. But
But
that it would be
not
like,
how
oh,
high.
yeah, but, like, so
But
here
we're
are these
gods,
guys.
so-
Yeah, but we're gods. And yet we won't be able to realistically oppose these people until we do, like, 3 seasons of this game.
I think we had a good shot of dealing at them just by virtue of just ridiculous numbers. Like, we were going to put together
I think you guys could have taken them season 1. Like at the end of season 1 when you guys were getting all your prep together. And season 2, once they scattered, it was a foregone conclusion. You guys were going to start fucking headhunting those guys and shard hunting.
Yeah.
So last game I didn't give out a lot of shards, and I know in Living Years when Kevin ran it, it was also lean because that was more of a resource management game.
Yeah.
This game I really fucking threw shards out. I just dump trucked them across the game because why the fuck not?
Yeah.
No one gets to use shards if I don't hand them out.
Yeah.
Like, I guess with the shards and the minions, so on and so on, in general, I think if this system put, like, if it wasn't used everywhere and actual Dominion expenditure was an important thing, like, say, in Fellowship, where you build an artifact, that's a big event because you're taking something from the world or from yourself, and that's something that is important. If that was also conveyed in Godbound itself, then maybe it would be less like, oh, okay, I just throw 40 Dominion to boost my guys up so I can go kill those people, and so on and so on.
I enjoyed the Dominion aspect of it.
Yeah, that's
Kind of
I
the
love that.
resource
game.
allocation.
doing our own things.
Yeah, and like having to choose what you would prioritize, like being like, okay, I'm a god, I can do these vast things, but I only have so many arbitrary points to allocate to them.
Okay,
Do I want to fix the sky or do I want to make an army?
Yeah, like if those choices came up more, or like there's more consequences that are something more where, again, where the choices really matter and have things, then maybe, yeah.
Sorry, no, you go.
Some of my favorite things were we didn't deal with it too much with my group, but I mean, was the nonsense that came about from my cult getting completely out of control. And like, we didn't touch on that much, but it was still fun to have, like, to go through that. And your some of the best moments in the game were, oh, look, it's a bit of look what my cult has gone completely apeshit in Jericho. And,
But
Bears.
to riff on
Bears.
what Nicole said about the importance of having short-term goals, I think that comes into it with Dominion. Like, right up until the end, I was always starved for Dominion. There were always things that I wanted to be spending points on, and always, like, more things I wanted to be doing, more miracles I wanted to be enacting than I had Dominion to spend, and I enjoyed that.
I loved it too. When I was playing Living Years, I loved that as Atris, just being able to kind of do projects, like fun little things. Yeah. Most were revolving around making people's lives easier.
I guess maybe they had more spotlight in the game, but again, so it's like, hey, let's dump 5-10 different projects the same session, guys, because we had a couple month downtime. It can get a bit overwhelming. Highlights from the game, I guess. What did we enjoy?
What were your guys' favorite moments?
Like, I really like, the fight, of course, with the Breaker, the big elephant, and so on and so on. That was probably the season 1 set piece.
that was pretty cool. I gotta give mad props to the Crimson Marquis because he didn't do that much, but when he did, oh my god, it was Looney Tunes.
Oh boy. I really liked all the bear things. I really fucking liked going to that town and the bear had fucking snuck in through the... Like, we were talking to the king of the city, and then a bear had snuck in behind the throne. It was gonna, like...
That was actually, one of my high priests was gonna be totally not a bear.
I mean, with the bear stuff, maybe it would be more interesting, like if they started engaging also different parts of the thing, like, oh, if a bear goes to Matiel and wants to pirate some honey, how does Matiel respond to that? And because out of like where the bears come up, usually it was in Taya, and Taya was just killing all of them. If they came up to us, that would be a different story.
Lothar doesn't even know his high priest is a bear. It's like, well, he's not a bear. I mean, he's clearly a ninja. It's like wearing like the least convincing ninja mask.
Just because his name is Barrington doesn't mean he's a bear.
His name is totally not a bear. I mean...
Actually, it is. It's Kumajinjanai, which I think roughly translated is not a bear.
Oh my god.
Yeah. That's probably wrong, though.
Not the
Google
brown
Translate,
one. I kind of like the one small thing, like at some point you were, it was Matiel talking with Loboto Bringer and something about Azazel be god, and he brought up like, oh, he's not a god, he's something different. Like nice little hint there that Azazel's actual past is that he's not the half god, he is half Shab-Niggurath-esque monster, the black goats of the woods, and so on and so on. Fortunately, we didn't get to that, but yeah, nice little touch there.
Yeah, I really liked interacting with our people.
Mm-hmm. I tried to put that to the forefront as much as I could, but like I used to keep track of issues that was popping from the stuff you're culted, but it quickly grew unmanageable.
Yeah.
Like maybe if we had the list of like, hey, these are the problems. If you want to knock something off the list, just point to it, and like we're going to have a scene about it. That might have been easier because we had also problems keeping up with what's going on, what's an issue. So like a quest log, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely enjoyed you portraying the goats, the vampires, the many different things out there. So definitely all the trashy part of the setting, quote unquote, was definitely a highlight.
Everything definitely had a personality to it, I feel.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack pulled its weight fairly well.
Yeah. What were the other highlights of our game? Like, after in the second season, I didn't enjoy all the fighting with our Nocturne. It took like 2-3 sessions and so on. Like,
Yeah, I felt really reluctant to get involved in those.
I know, right? Oh my god,
that was a slog.
The witch?
The space
In the later
monsters.
fight.
Oh,
Because once we got into the end, it was like, all right, he's going to use 99 walls because you're doing 12 damage pretty much automatically every round. Yep, and he's going to hit you for 47 because he's doing 3 attacks per round straight damage.
And see, the last fight with the angel, I think I enjoyed because it had high stakes. We didn't have any bullshit guys with us to throw an army at it, and the power levels were about matched. So it was a toss-up of who'd win, who'd survive, and so on.
Yeah, that fight definitely had a lot more. That fight definitely had a lot more. A contextual feel of you guys were up against like a pile driver. Like this was a machine that was going to hit you over and over and over again, and you knew how hard it was going to hit because it's a machine and it's relatable. Like it's readable. Like you know how hard it'll hit, right? And like the thing with that is, if any of you had 9 iron wall, it would have been you would have killed it. It would have been done.
Was it?
Purity point.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. If you had a PBLA, it would have been fucking gone.
Same if it had brilliant law.
That's
Which it originally did, and you guys were like,
well, I think if anyone plays this game, they should play it with the errata that the creator put out.
Yeah,
that you were saying, where he's like, you use
You
it
could do
once
it
per target, once per scene.
It just also seems to me that like certain words should have like every word should have a counterspell, but the counterspell should make thematic sense for the words.
I mean,
not just stuff in your own word, but opposing.
You can offensively and defensively dispel with any word as long as it makes logical sense. You can do rainbow shields like we did in Exalted, but obviously Purity of Brilliant Law is just better than everything else. So like, I don't know, if you had Entropy, you could definitely dispel Passion, because I'm like, oh, I don't feel anything, I have the Heart of Stone. If you had Might, maybe you could break the sword, or Endurance, and so on and so on. Definitely, there's more conversation to be had there, provided there's no one word that can just, rainbow shield everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we definitely came to the fight unprepared, and it was interesting.
Yeah. And it did have stakes. The stakes were important.
Yeah.
It's very hard to set stakes in Godbound because, again, the fight with the big monsters. It can't be personal stakes because you can just leave.
Yeah.
And it can't be things you care about in certain contexts because, like, you know, Dericho, they could not leave. You couldn't get him out of there, so you definitely had to win. Like, you had to stay there and stop.
Oh, the fucking tea plague. That was definitely one of my favorite things, too. That was fucking amazing.
Oh my god, really?
That was good. Yeah.
My name starts with T.
Yeah.
Very good. But, like, yeah, the Dericho people could not move, so you had to get in front of the rock and stop it. But, like, if it was any other people, it's like, we'll just use our gifts to get them out of here.
So
fucking wormhole them away.
So it sounds like something like Fellowship, where you have Overlord has plans and armies sieging places that can destroy it.
It's a foregone conclusion. Again, like this would probably sound shocking to people listening because we've spent the last 3 years being the Godbound podcast, but it's like, yeah, but then we found something that we didn't have to work around in the background.
Then we found Powered by the Apocalypse, and we're like, well, fuck this.
Well,
Shiny new thing.
I gotta admit, after reading it,
what was that? Shiny anything?
Shiny new thing.
I remember
Shiny.
suggesting a lot of games we could try, and then we should play Feng Shui, we should play Leverage, and then reading through Powered by the Apocalypse. This would be a lot more fun if it was converted into Powered by the Apocalypse.
I mean, again, it's not because the Powered by the Apocalypse does things inherently mechanically interesting. It's not a game engine, it's more like a design principle. And the design principle is the key part. It's about every part of the mechanics are written to push forward the narrative you're going for in the game. Fellowship is written to make games about those kinds of journey of a bunch of friends growing together fun. The Sprawl is built to make doing a heist fun. It's not about a gear book or going down a list of things or doing a bunch of pre-planning. It's go directly into the heist, and while you're in the heist, you can retroactively set shit up. Same with Blades in the Dark, which does it. The Sprawl's good, but Blades in the Dark does what the Sprawl wants to do, 1,000 times better.
The Throne one, Kill 6 Billion Demons, Broken World, that one is designed for, clearly, every single
Shaw
character.
Brothers Wuxia.
Yeah, is capable of ridiculous,
Kill 6 Billion Demons is about having a conversation, but with your fists.
Yeah. And I remember talking to Tom, and he said this, is that Broken Worlds is built to be a Shaw Brothers fight. Those types of old Kung Fu movies. So everyone is capable of unbelievable violence. Even the non-combatant characters are capable of unbelievable violence. That is the language of the game. And all of the mechanics put that forward. And Broken Worlds is very, very light and very... it's not bad, it's rudimentary compared to, say, the polish that Monster Hearts or Fellowship or Legacy has. They all have very high polish in what they conceptually want the game to do. Just reading Legacy, the way the game pushes forward how it wants to kind of make the narrative work by the mechanics is very evocative. You reading one of the Civilization playbooks or one of the character playbooks, you get what that's
the one that really got me was the first one. I think I actually got into this before I met you guys. Was the Worldwide Wrestling one?
Oh, yeah, that one's really nice. That was one I was going to use for Transformers originally.
Yeah, well,
because it's all about having very specific characters with very specific personalities and playing to a crowd, which would be the people buying the toy.
Yeah, it would very much have that was the greatest thing was that who wins the fight is decided beforehand. And the game actually recognizes this. It's all about getting there and making the thing actually work. And the characters basically have their own own styles. And sometimes things go horribly wrong. You can a character can be horrendously injured and they have to change the match because one of the characters has a massive drug addiction and that's his problem.
Yeah.
And he tends to take things way too far.
That, and that is everything that is really fucking important to playing pretend with wrestling.
Yeah.
You need that. If you were just trying to figure out, if you were going to build a wrestling video game, those are the elements you'd want because then it would just be on TV where it's oh shit, Vince McMahon has a goddamn cocaine addiction and his twin brothers come back from the future to kill him. And it's
and compared to say...
But actual video games are it's like a wrestling game when you're fighting.
And if you go down the traditional, just make it in D&D, it wouldn't work.
And that's what they tried too. The last two wrestling games I've seen, the Know Your Role and the other one, they're fucking D&D.
Yeah.
You even have like the charismatic wrestler, the strong wrestler, the wise wrestler.
And I like none of that makes sense because the fight in wrestling is the least important part about wrestling.
It's a fucking soap opera.
Yeah.
But with naked guys in fucking Speedos.
Yeah. I think it's like exceptionally violent. Like not super more violent than soap operas because soap operas go places sometimes. Sometimes a werewolf shows up.
Hey, Gangrel.
Get fucking Gangrel, the wrestler. Yeah.
It's vampires, man.
But
It's up at the top.
yeah, that's kind of what I mean. It's not the mechanics. It's not that narrative games. I guess it is narrative games are superior. Like, yeah, I'm probably saying that, but the point is that the game knows what the people going to want to play, and all the mechanics push towards to have that happening. You know, I want to play a wrestling game where it's a big soap opera drama where the actors and the characters they're playing are different, and there's kayfabe, and the game's like, yeah, here's all the mechanics to do it. There's a game for MASH, like the Korean War TV show soap opera. There's a game for it called MASH, where you have different characters and like it's all about like dealing with the drama of war and like the different quirky personalities in the base and doing fucking surgery. That also was the first pick I had for Transformers because I was going to be a game about being in like a hospital in Cybertron and stuff.
Circling back though, I do actually like Godbound. Like I like looking at the words. I like being able to pick different powers you have and what
Making
you're
like
the god
500
of.
different characters.
But I don't like having combat in the game. If you could just throw combat out or hand wave it and just have it be like also slightly lower to the ground, more like Living Years.
I think if we all made
Living Years is
characters
a
that
curse.
were not
Yeah, it's a curse because it's perfect.
Living Years was the first big
Not
Godbound game
combat-y.
we ran. And we'll never get a game like that again out of Godbound. It was perfect.
I guess, well, part of like the grand now, I don't think there is one yet that's like Godbound, like Exalted, where you like the high power tiers that.
There's there's one called Godsend. I haven't. It's actually a spin-off of Legacy.
Yeah.
I've looked into it. It's fairly good. For what we want out of it, we definitely want to alter it a bit. But Godsend exists, and it's actually a lot like Godbound mixed with ActRaiser from the Super Nintendo.
Mm. Oh yeah.
For the
It's
one
also
person who
diceless.
got that reference.
It's also diceless.
Also, like the way we run such God games is quite different. It's like a lot more screaming, a lot more arguing about morality and so on. And I don't think that's maybe in, but I don't know. Haven't watched Red Gods yet, so.
Yeah, I don't mean to toot our own horn on that, but like I feel with games that have morality as a central thesis, like you're playing divinities and you're building a cult and people are expected to worship you and you have to set moral codes for them, I feel we kind of go hard into it. Like, we talk about that shit. Living Years was nothing but us discussing ethics and morality and trying to figure out a way to be a good person. And this game, way to be a good person probably wasn't at the forefront, but the fucking dynamics of divinity like really came up.
Yeah, I just tried to be a god. I never tried to be a good person.
This game wasn't really a good person game. It was a powerful person game.
Yeah.
It was about being great, not being good. Which is fine. Not every game is about being good. But Living Years was absolutely about both being a god and being good. Like, we had conversations in Living Years where one character, like my character, was uncomfortable being a god because he was in a world that wasn't his own land, right? Like, he was in this place called Enkali, which is like mythic Ethiopia. And he came from Ravenloft. And he was essentially like, I know I can save these people, and I know these people, like, you know, would benefit from worshiping me, but if I did that, I'd be taking away from their actual culture. And it isn't right to do that because I'm just profiting off of their suffering. Like, it isn't their fault an apocalypse hit them. It wasn't because they lived sinfully or lived a bad life. An apocalypse hit and destroyed their culture and their society. And if I rolled up and was like, yeah, worship me, I'll keep you safe and stuff, then I'd be destroying any link they had to getting that culture back on their own. And I don't have the ethical right to do that. And it was actually a big thing for a bunch of sessions for him. I actually was a free divinity for a while before I actually started gathering a cult. But like, that's a pretty big thing to bring up in a game of being gods, right?
See,
Like, that's a
if
fairly
something
heavy
like
topic.
Godbound had such thing like, oh, here are your philosophical challenge for the players. Here, grab it, and you have such conversation, like pick from the list, like what might be relevant to you.
A cut.
Philosophy, the thickening.
Yeah, like that'd be like a cut that the
Like-
GM or the referee would throw.
Like if you had mechanics or even concepts to challenge players in that way, that would be more just like say, oh, Thea wants to turn everyone into Acerans because Aceran is the loyal one. They're mutilating their souls. What if we had that addressed as an actual philosophical issue? That would be a big thing that can be solved with throwing damage, that can be solved with throwing miracles, can be solved with anything, but working it out.
Yeah, and like, you know, sometimes the answer isn't like a big hand wringing. It's like you're mutilating these people's souls to turn into a facsimile of your most loyal worshiper because you're a paranoid psychopath. And Faye's like, yes. It's like, well, don't you see the problem? Nope. I only see a solution. And its name is Acerin. I will never be hurt again.
See, and all of that tells us more about your characters,
Yeah.
what their values is, and so on. And lets other people react to that.
But yeah, I think in summary for Godbound, because this might just turn into a session ragging about Godbound, but like the summary for it is Godbound is very good. It is a good sandbox game. It does fit all those niches very well. And the book itself is an excellent system agnostic companion to learning how to run a game with like all these different factions vying and consequences. It's a shit ton better than Exalted currently is, and it works. It's probably a very good edition of D&D, like. Because that's what it is. It's D&D, guys. It's OSR. It's AD&D.
Oh yeah, something we didn't focus on a lot with, but the faction turns and problems that your factions accrue, and I like that shit.
Yeah, but do you like doing it in between sessions?
No, I like doing it in session.
Dealing with problems, dealing with follow-up.
Yeah, I
Someone is
think,
doing
I
the
think
bookkeeping.
if we ever played Godbound again, I would totally be up for a game where we're more playing like social things and we're all having our own little faction
The question
turns.
is, do we need Godbound for that?
Yeah, exactly. We don't.
Yeah.
I might use the
That
Teams
faction
from
turn
it.
thing is great for using in any game. Like again,
Yeah.
the faction turn's agnostic. Same with the Dominion system. The Dominion system isn't tied into the AD&D framework. It's just a system you can use.
yeah, and also the thing for creating a religion. I really fucking like that.
Yeah, in the lexicon.
In the lexicon, yeah. So I'm definitely going to use that if in any other game my fucking culture that my character's in has a religion.
The lexicon isn't just for the new words and strifes in Godbound listeners. The lexicon has an excellent section at the back that's kind of like half the book that is all about how to do religion in a believable way. Not only how to do religion as like a game runner who's like trying to make something up for their world, but also as a player for like something for their character, whether they're at the head of it or they're interacting with it. It's an excellent tool for building out a believable society like that. And the core book also has that for building out factions and building out other civilizations, building out troubles and conflicts. Like, there's a lot going on in Godbound that really pushes the game forward, and perennially, because it's Kevin Crawford and it's signed nominee, it will always be attached to the AD&D framework, and that'll always be a thing. But like, there's not much you can say about it. It's super profitable for him to do that. He makes an actual living using the AD&D framework as the baseline because everyone who plays RPGs knows D&D just a little.
Yeah.
No, I've got a group. My other group is a bunch of older grognards like me, and getting them to play any time I bring out like a narrative system and say we should play it. It's a hard they're so it's not popular, let's put it that way. I was able to get them to play Godbound because it's based on the OSR. Like that's what got them willing to look at it.
What is grognard?
Grognard is a term to mean older D&D players who kind of stuck in the past.
Okay.
That is the nicest way to put it, but there's other implications. It's this whole thing. It's not important. It's not part of this conversation.
Yeah. Huh. Like, personally, I would say I liked Godbound, but I think I've grown tired of it.
I
Yeah.
think we overexposed ourselves to it.
Exactly. Maybe we'll come back to it someday, but
mean-
not soon.
Not that we consider overexposed. What we did.
Oh, dude, I did the math. Out of...
No, but we did Prison of the US, we did Living Years, and then we had, what, a year, 2 years break?
No, we've always been playing Godbound in the background. Out of the 280 some episodes we put out, a solid 140, maybe 100 are Godbound.
I mean, the thing is, like...
Because after Prison of the Universe ended, you have to remember, it was only a couple of months before Kevin launched Living Years.
Yes.
And while Living Years was going on, there was only a couple of months break after it stopped before we put out Ten Buried Blades and Storms of Yi Chao.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
then we filtered into Evicting Epistle. We never stopped playing Godbound.
Yeah, also, since we've played so much, now we figure out all the kinks and all the things. Like, oh, now the genius of the bottle is kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, and the Congenials, that other game I ran that you guys weren't in.
I think it would be neat to maybe play a game where you're not actually Godbound, but each person gets to choose one word, and they're people. They're not gods, but they get to choose one word and
They're
have
kind
these
Use the
powers.
theming rules or something.
Yeah.
There are kind of rules like that in the book. A, for heroic mortals, and B, for doing like lesser Godbound.
Like,
That sounds like it would be more fun.
like if you say to the Dunkas and run as heroic mortals, that would be a way different game and so on. So, Evicting Epistle. Anything else to add? Anything we regret not doing? Something?
I don't know. I mean, it would have been nice to sort of look into the effect our cults have long term and like that sort of, end of video gaming / epilogue maybe.
That's a tricky thing we came up with in Godbound too, where Transformers also had, and so does Exalted versus World of Darkness. Oh, Exalted versus World of Darkness, we never got away from Exalted either. But so you have these characters that have these cults and these powers and stuff, but because of the way zoom in and time frames happen, you never really can get away from like spending like an entire week in 5 sessions in the same week. Like 5 or 10 sessions can go by and you're still in like month 1. It's super fucking easy to do that, and then you never see how your cult grows or what the consequences of your actions are. So like that's one of the reasons in Evicting Epistle I made a conscious effort to explain to you guys that time is very subjective in the Epistle. And that it passes without any consideration to anything. Yeah. And it would never be used to be, a consequence to you guys or to like punish you. But like, centuries were happening, months were going by, decades were going by. It was just happening like this in between what you were doing. Yeah. And that was a way to show your cultures growing. Like every time you went back to Derecho, it was different. Like a different era had taken place there. Sensibilities had changed. And that's not something you get to see in games usually. And it's because we specifically went out of the way to do it.
Yep. Like, the only thing maybe left for me to do here would be like, explore Azazel's backstory, but that was pretty much the only thing I wish I could have done, but combat took its, precious time.
Yeah.
Many sessions of fighting in Nocturnus and in the Paradise and other things. Oh well.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes threads get dropped, unfortunately.
Next time we'll use the Worldwide Wrestling combat rules.
I know, right? Fuck. Alright, well then, no other comments, no other final notes?
Nope.
I think that was the epistle.
I think we all had fun though, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed the campaign a lot.
I'm glad. But I think that's the end of Epistle, probably for the time being. I don't think we'll come back. We might, but I think that's a wrapped narrative. We ended on character death. Jesus fucking Christ.
The heart of the, pantheon died.
Pretty much. But I was Devin.
Nicole?
Tyler?
Peter.
Mark.
And this is sponsored by Nobody. Signing off.